Time to get ready for week number 13 with our snake draft live here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Periscope channels, getting you set for the week 13 DFS slate by running through a snake draft over on FanDuel.com and afterwards answering your questions. Welcome on in to the Snake Draft Q&A. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Joined here, as always, by JJ Zachariason and Brandon Gadula. JJ is the editor-in-chief of numberFire and FanDuel. JJ, week 12, finally, at long last, it is over. How you doing today?
Yeah, thank God it's over. It kind of sucks that I won the snake draft and then we get a week off, so I didn't get to talk any junk after finally getting a W. But I guess I'm just gonna have to win again this week.
So we have 3 more snake drafts left, including this week, I believe. I need to win out because, if I win the first 3 and then just get blasted every week after that, it's not going to look good. It already feels pretty bad, so I'm angling to win out. And the guy we got to beat is Brandon Gadula, who is the managing editor for numberFire.com. Brandon, you've got 5 wins. I feel like it's just inevitable you're going to win. I'm just sad about this. How are you on this chipper note?
Man, we got such a great relationship. You're just so sad that I might win this.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm sad about it. It's not that I'm losing; it's that you're winning.
Yeah, it makes me feel sad, but I mean, that's why we're good co-hosts on the Heat Check.
5 years of podcasting will really sour you on a guy. So, that's why we're here. We're going to break down the Week 13 slate in just 1 second. But as you can see above us, we have a countdown. We're giving away a ticket to the FanDuel Sunday Million for week number 13. All you have to do is go to the YouTube description, find an entry, or find the link, click the link, enter your email, get yourself entered to win a ticket to the Week 13 FanDuel Sunday Million contest. Get yourself a shot at a whole lot of cash, $500,000 going to first place for the Sunday Million for this week. We'll announce the winner on air here later today following the snake draft. But again, you got about 12 and a half minutes left to get those entries in. So do so now via the link in the YouTube description. This Week 13 slate is a pretty interesting one because the running backs are awesome. Everything else, JJ, kind of sucks. At least that's where Brandon and I wound up on the preview podcast yesterday. Where do you sit on this slate as a whole? Feeling good about the running backs? What's your overall view of this slate?
I would agree with that. And I think for the first time in a while, we sort of have the running backs in clearer tiers than we've had over the last few weeks. You have a couple studs in Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, and then, a Nick Chubb type or an Austin Eckler type. They're strong. And then you just have a lot of guys that could realistically produce that, realistically might not even be drafted in our snake draft, like a Miles Sanders type, who I'm pretty high on this week. But, I think that there's a real chance that just because of the depth of the position, and you could hypothetically go in other directions, that even a player like that, I think he might get drafted. We'll see. But, I think that just shows you how deep the position is. And then you're right, a wide receiver, it sort of sucks too that we don't get the Chiefs on this slate. We can't play like Tyreek, but a wide receiver, you have some of these top guys like a DeAndre Hopkins in a tough matchup against the Rams. And even Keenan Allen, what's that going to look like with Stephon Gilmore if he's going to shadow him a little bit, or at least on the outside? The Patriots have been pretty good, or have been pretty bad against slot guys, and Keenan Allen plays a lot there, so hopefully it doesn't matter. But there's just a lot more to think about and to ponder with the wide receivers, I feel like, this week than the running backs.
I think it's also tougher with the receivers because so much for me at wide receiver revolves around stacking games, and there aren't a lot of great games to stack, at least from the passing game perspective, because you look at the 3 games with a total over 50 for this week, 3 of the 6 teams involved in those 3 games are the run-heaviest teams in football. You got the Vikings, you got the Browns, you got the Titans. It's harder to get receivers from those teams. Obviously, A.J. Brown's awesome. We love Thielen. We love Jefferson. We're not saying that there's no wide receivers, but the main allure of those games is the running backs, which definitely makes things a bit tougher for sure. Now, JJ kind of alluded to this, Brandon, but there are some value running backs available on the slate. Before we went live, it was announced that Josh Jacobs will not play this week, so we do confirm that we have Devontae Booker available to us. Also, David Montgomery is there. Myles Gaskin not confirmed yet to be active for the Dolphins, but it seems like he is trending towards playing. So looking at these value plays, how do you think things look overall on the lower salaried running backs? Are you feeling pretty good about them for daily fantasy in week 13, or Are you trying to limit your exposure to that group?
I still like to limit my exposure in a salary cap format because Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook just have ceilings that are pretty much impossible to match if you have any workload concerns at all. That's not to say that Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook are the only running backs with any sort of upside or that they will hit. But, I mean, we've seen like 30-point games from these guys, and you don't really get that from a value back. It's just not really the kind of workload that they have. Meanwhile, at receiver, you have someone like Allen Robinson or Brandon Cooks potentially. We see more variance at wide receiver, so I always will just side with the higher salaried running backs with better roles and be a little bit more open to lower salaried receivers as a result. But in the Snakes draft, I mean, we talked at the beginning of the year, we figured we would draft 9 running backs every week. JJ talked about the depth here. There is depth, but I kind of think you can make the case that there's a top 6 and then it's a drop off, and some of the receivers might be more intriguing. So I can kind of see it both ways this week.
It's tough because I think on this slate, points are probably going to be at a premium because there aren't a lot of high scoring games. There's issues with pretty much every game on the board at some point. And I need points. Value is great. Getting me 2x value for your salary is great. But I need points at a certain point because I don't think there'll be that many. And that's why I think it's smart to still limit your exposure to the lower salary backs because, like you said, if we're going to get a 40-point game, it's going to come from Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, probably one of those guys. And at some point, you do need those points. I think that's probably the right to view things. Sure, we're going to have, some Myles Gaskin, we're going to have some Devontae Booker and have some David Montgomery, but at some point, we need guys who can move the needle, and that's still going to be the higher salary guys. Okay, so I think we are all set to start this snake draft. We'll do that in just a second. But first, a quick reminder, get those entries in for the FanDuel Sunday Million. JJ, you want to enter and get us popping here?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
All righty.
I hope I get number 2. And I got number 1.
Okay.
Jim gets the 2. This is setting up for Jim to finally get that W.
But I said I didn't want to. I said I wanted 3 so I could get I guess I might still get my guy. I wanted Austin Eckler, and I can't justify taking him second.
Yeah, you can't.
You
can't
wanted Eckler and Nick Chubb, didn't you?
I might still get Nick Chubb because I know that you hate him. So
no, I don't hate him. I think there's a high floor with Nick Chubb, and that has a lot of value in a 3-man snake draft.
Yeah. So JJ picks first. Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry? Is it a decision for you? Is it close? Do you have a lean in that one? Where are you thinking right here?
Part of me really wants to just go Derrick Henry. A legitimate part of me. But I'm still gonna go with Dalvin. If there were not some fear with Dalvin's health right now, just some, then I would easily be going Dalvin here because I think the workload wouldn't be in question. But I think that there is at least somewhat of this fear that Minnesota gets up big in this game against Jacksonville. They're one of the biggest favorites on this slate. And if that happens, they just go a little bit more to Alexander Mattison, which we've seen once or twice this season. But, we've also predicted their game script incorrectly this season, against Dallas earlier this year.
Also, you got 13 seconds left. Just letting you know.
I'm going to get Dalvin Cook.
I was going to cut you off there just so you didn't.
I knew it was coming.
I think that's the argument in favor of Derrick Henry is that you want running backs in tight games. In this format, you should take Dalvin Cook first. You should. But if we're talking about true ceiling games, those tend to come from back and forth games, and you're more likely to get that in a game with a tight spread. That's why I think you can justify going Derrick Henry over Dalvin Cook. But I think in this format, you made the right choice, taking Dalvin number 1 over Derrick Henry. So Brandon has Austin Eckler, and number 2, you are going with Nick Chubb. Okay, so that leaves me with either James Robinson or Aaron Jones. I think that the workload is better for Robinson by a pretty significant amount, but the team is better for Aaron Jones, and I want tutties, so give me Aaron Jones as my number 5 running back here. And it was pretty close, though, for me. Brandon, what puts you on Nick Chubb there at that 4th pick?
Just safety and the combination of better game environment than James Robinson, who I did have above Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones just hasn't had the same workload in games with Devontae Adams, but now JJ has that running back stack between Dalvin Cook and James Robinson, which I actually think is quite viable this week. People don't typically like stacking opposing running backs, but it can definitely be a good strategy.
I agree. I don't know who to pick here.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit.
I guess I just go DeAndre Hopkins.
So yeah, I took Devontae Adams. I think he's easily the number one wide receiver on the slate. The James Robinson thing, the one thing I will say is that if it's odd. Every single week we assume that Jacksonville is going to be in these like crazy negative game scripts, but they haven't been so insane that we've seen, we haven't had to see like backs up against the wall. What are they going to do with James Robinson if they're down 3 touchdowns, let's say? The best example is Pittsburgh, and towards the end of that Pittsburgh game, they sort of started to use other running backs, but I still think he's going to see a massive workload, but there is still some fear. But the thing is, in a three-man contest, come on, guys, in a three-man contest, I'm at least getting a floor there, because if there is a nice positive game script for Minnesota, that means Dalvin Cook had something to do with it, right? So, yeah, or hopefully.
Man. Another thing too with James Robinson is that
he had 6 targets last week from Glennon too.
Also, Mike Glennon played pretty well. Like, we should give Mike Glennon credit where credit is due, because he actually did play really well.
And their offense is going to be a lot better because they're getting DJ Chark and Chris Conley back.
Okay, sure.
I have no idea what I'm going to do here.
I've had no idea for my past 2 picks. I hate both of my picks. Like, What are we doing? Like, the running back, wide receiver here is just not good, but like I have to take more of the running backs, so the running backs aren't good either.
That's what I was saying is I think after the top 6 running backs,
I'm going to do what we talked about, and I'm going to get Miles Sanders.
Okay, so you want Miles Sanders.
Why did I do that?
Thanks for the win, JJ.
Just wait, baby. Just wait.
Oh, gosh. I'm just going to take Aaron Rodgers here.
Why did you do that? I wanted to stack him, Jim.
Well, I'm stacking with Aaron Jones. Like, I'll get all the Packers production, and Jamal Williams going to rush for 2 touchdowns.
So I need a flex and a quarterback.
Should have just gone Rodgers.
I hate my team.
Oh, I do too, because you just ruined it.
I don't have any, the only correlation I have is Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers.
You know what?
Okay. Do I want the Wilson Metcalf or the Herbert?
You want Justin
Allen
Herbert.
Stack.
You want Justin Herbert.
I do.
This 3-way sucks.
I actually haven't thought about this one enough. I hate the pace for the Seahawks the past 2 games, but he should still be efficient here. But, oh, man, I'm going to panic.
I've already panicked. Don't worry. You're fine. You've got the baked-in stuff. You're fine.
I actually went with Metcalf and Allen, knowing I would almost assuredly get to stack one of those guys. Yeah. I didn't think I'd have to pick, but
I should have never picked Miles Sanders over Aaron Rodgers. That was where I went south.
So I know that AJ Brown's not fully healthy, but I don't usually get to use AJ Brown, so I'm just going to use both AJ Brown and Derrick Henry on the same team and just take all the points in that game.
It's nice that you got the Titans wide receiver 2 though behind Corey Davis.
This is really tough.
He's a wide receiver 3 because Ryan Tannehill at one point was a wide receiver 2.
This is very difficult for me. I have no idea what to do at quarterback because I don't like Deshaun. I'm going Kyler.
You should have gone Jared Goff. Come on.
I went Kyler.
Terrible decision. Wow. Jared Goff was right there waiting for you.
Look at these projections.
Oh my goodness. Like I said, this week it's not easy, and it makes you feel uneasy because these projections are low for a reason. It's because there aren't going to be a lot of points scored. Looking at my team, I feel awesome about Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones. I feel poo about DeAndre Hopkins, Adam Thielen, and I guess it's mostly just those 2. But I think that with DeAndre Hopkins, at least I have pace in that game. The pace should be really good. There should be a lot of play volume. I don't really care too much about the fact that they'll face really good quarterback play because the pace will be so good. It hopefully can help compensate for that. It's not like Christian Kirk or Andy Isabella or maybe Larry Fitz gets a good matchup either. So feel fine about Hopkins. Thielen, he gets tons of red zone work. Should be a fairly efficient game for the Vikings offense. AJ Brown, he's just an animal. And I get to cheer for AJ Brown for once, which never happens. I can never get to his salary in DFS. So I guess there's that. Let's go to JJ's lineup here. You do have Kyler Murray at quarterback. I think that it's a good bounce back week for Kyler because he got in a full practice on Thursday this week as opposed to Friday, which is good. Dalvin obviously is there. You get the game stack with James Robinson in case that game goes well. What were the big decision points for you within this draft?
Biggest mistake I made was the Miles Sanders panic pick over Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would have gone Aaron Rodgers. I should have just stacked. It was a really dumb choice because I probably could have maybe gotten Sanders later. with my next pick. And even if I couldn't, then it was still fine. Like, he wasn't like a must-have. I do like his spot a lot this week, though. I think he's a great tournament play. And then, Allen Robinson to me is just a really high floor play. That was really the main reason. I love Robinson. I love him in the salary format a lot too, given that he's still under 7K. So that wasn't tough. And then, Devontae Adams wasn't tough either because he's Devontae Adams.
I think the Packers offense as a whole is in a really good spot on Sunday. I've grown more fond of them as the week has gone along. I think that just like Aaron Rodgers is too good to not like him when he's in a good spot, and he is here. So I think that bodes well for Green Bay. Allen Robinson did hurt his knee in practice today, but it sounds like it's just precautionary. It's not like he'll be okay. So it should be fine there. Let's go to Brandon's here. Russell Wilson at your quarterback. And the reason that we were a bit wishy-washy on Russ on Thursday was because we didn't know what the ceiling was. The salary is $9,000. Those are factors that don't matter as much in a 3-person snake draft. So I think that you made the right choice. What were the big decisions for you with your draft?
Eckler was pretty obvious for the 3. And I think Nick Chubb was the automatic 4 for me just because Aaron Jones does have some workload concerns whenever Devontae Adams is healthy. James Robinson is a big underdog. So Nick Chubb, I think, was just the best pick there. I assumed I was going to get some combination that looked like DK Metcalf and Keenan Allen at the turn. So that was kind of simple. And then so I think the first 4 picks made themselves. And then the decision became, what do I do at flex? Do I want one of the running backs or do I go for somebody with some sort of upside, with like a Calvin Ridley? And then the hardest was getting out of like salary cap mode and into snake draft mode and saying, I think Justin Herbert's my favorite quarterback at his salary.
Yeah.
So I didn't really think about Russ too much. They really slowed things down. They're about league average and situation contextual pass rate over the past 2 games. His volume's down, but efficiency matters a lot at quarterback. It's pretty much number 1 for fantasy. He can still throw 3 or 4 touchdowns on like 30 attempts. That's how good he can be. And I figured, I had to stack either Metcalf or Keenan Allen. So I just thought I would regret not taking Russ a little bit more than regret not taking Justin Herbert in a game where, the Patriots defense is not what it used to be, but they can still screw up a game.
It's not the defense that can screw up a game. It's the offense that can screw up a game, which is still bad for DFS. So,
although, the Giants would. With Colt McCoy.
Yeah, that's true. So both Brandon and I were on board with Nick Chubb as the 4th overall pick. JJ, if the board had fallen the way that it did, where it was Henry, Cook, Eckler off the board in the top 3, would you also have gone Nick Chubb at pick 4?
I would, yeah. And I honestly think, and I think I said this before we started, but I think that you can make the argument that Nick Chubb's a better play than Eckler on FanDuel because of the touchdown upside. I love Eckler. I think he's a great play. I think that he should be in a large number of your lineups this week, given his price point. But Chubb last week, we finally saw that shift of Kareem Hunt and whatever the heck they were doing the previous 2 weeks. I know that Chubb lost a contact lens at one point in that one game. And that's why Kareem Hunt got like 4 goal line carries. But
he's running too fast. That's the issue. Run slower and you won't lose your contact.
Yeah, regardless, what we're seeing is that what we saw last week is that Chubb took over the red zone and goal line role. I think he has more touchdown upside than Eckler does because regardless of how much we love Eckler and how good he is and that 31% target share that he saw last week, Josh Kelly's still seeing some work at the goal line and other running backs are stepping in and being that player because that's not what Austin Eckler does. Can he find the end zone? Of course. Yeah. He can, and it's not like he's not going to see any work in the red zone. It's just that you can make that argument that Chubb has a little bit more upside because of that.
And the game is really good too. It's a high scoring game.
Yeah, exactly.
The opposing offense will score points. I don't know if I can say that with confidence with Eckler's opponents. So I think it makes sense straight up. Chubb probably deserves to be above Eckler, but I just love Eckler's floor so much.
It didn't hit me till now that I got Eckler and Keenan Allen. So
I have
that game's going to be 13-7.
I have Derrick Henry and AJ Brown. It's guaranteed.
It's a much better game.
Yeah, because it's the best game. Best drafter here, obviously. Our winner for the Week 13 FanDuel Sunday Million ticket is Duke. I don't want to give away your email, Duke, so it's just Duke. Duke, if you're watching this, congratulations. You should receive an email with a ticket to the FanDuel Sunday Million for Week 13. Congratulations, Duke. We'll give away another ticket next week. You're on the Snake Draft as well. All right, let's have some questions here. Starting off over on YouTube, Annette says, hey, hello, Annette. The Aircoo says, Josh Jacobs is out for this week. Should I pick up Denzel Mims or Gabriel Davis? Brandon, both those guys are pretty relevant. Would you have a preference between Denzel Mims and Gabriel Davis this week?
It's going to be Denzel Mims.
Yeah, baby.
He's, off the top of my head, I think 9th in air yards per game over the past 4 weeks. I know air yards, you still got to catch those, but he has a really good workload, a lot of downfield attempts, and almost called him Oakland, but the Raiders are 23rd in adjusted pass defense, so I like Denzel Mims a lot.
The Dolphins are 3rd in adjusted pass defense. This is a much better matchup than what Denzel Mims and the Jets had last week. I also think that Brashad Perriman is in play as a pivot for daily fantasy purposes. The just ask that one. Joey, this one is for JJ. Michael Pittman or Latavius Murray? We saw Latavius Murray get a bit more work this past week in that crazy script. But Michael Pittman is facing a really, really bad defense. Preference for you between Michael Pittman and Latavius Murray this week?
I mean, look, no Roby for Houston. The last time we saw that secondary without him, Jake Luton in his first career start tore them up for over 300 yards. So, I think Pittman's in a really, really good spot. I think Latavius is safer. And if you're in a standard league, I'd probably just go Latavius. But if it's a PPR league and if you need more of a ceiling, I think you can go with Pittman because I do think he has a pretty high ceiling this week.
If you're an underdog, I think Pittman makes a lot of sense. Another from Joey, I'll take this one. He says, pick 3, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Devontae Booker, Antonio Gibson. Michael Pittman, Kenyon Drake. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has a stomach bug and is kind of shaky. They also play later, so I feel like you can bump him down this list. I'd also bump Pittman down. Devontae Booker should have a good workload, should get passing game work, good offense. Antonio Gibson, really tough matchup, but that workload is insane. And Kenyon Drake is getting tutties. He has 45% of the team's red zone opportunities the past 3 weeks since he came back from injury. So I would take the 3 running backs there outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire for you, Joey. Bethany, this one's for Brandon. She wants to know how many #prayer yards for DK Metcalf this week. Do you have a projected prayer yards number for DK Metcalf?
All of them. Basically, no. I mean,
all of them on 5 pass attempts.
Yeah, that's the issue. Is like I said, I've been messing around with like context-based pace and pass rate, and the Seahawks are scaling back their pass rate a little bit, but it's their pace that's concerning, and they shouldn't have to throw too much. So I know I drafted DK Metcalf, but it's because he can do a lot of damage on his downfield work. But I mean, being realistic, there's still reasons to be very optimistic about DK Metcalf, but we should pump the brakes a little bit, and I'm not quite as sold on him in a salary draft format as I am in a snake draft.
Yeah, I think that's the way to view things for sure. Just because, we know what he can do. He doesn't need a lot of targets, but, the salary is pretty lofty. I'll take this one from Alvin because Alvin's a carryover from the baseball streams. What's up, Alvin? Thoughts on McVay saying Ramsey won't travel with DeAndre Hopkins this week. It doesn't really influence me at all. I think that there is definitely value to considering wide receiver cornerback matchups, but, it's a high-paced game. It's going to feature a lot of pass attempts. I'm thinking Kyler Murray should be healthier this week. So, I think that Hopkins is defensible regardless, and that doesn't really move me one way or another. So, Alvin, I would say status quo, I'm good with Hopkins regardless. I think that that's totally fine. Francis is asking, this one is for JJ. Jerry Jeudy, Zach Moss, or Philip Lindsay in the flex. Now, Lindsay's health is definitely up in the air. He was limited on Thursday, so he probably should play, but not at full health. So Jerry Jeudy, Zach Moss, or Philip Lindsay for you in half PPR.
I mean, I'll say Jerry Jeudy. And I say that not very confidently because that offense has just not been very strong. But quarterback play shouldn't be as bad as it was last week, I would hope. And Jeudy up until this past week, he's been seeing a good air yard market share, a decent target share. I would probably go in his direction given the other 2 running backs just are not in the best situations in the world.
Jeudy had some of the best. He had 4 6, 4, and 3, I think, like deep targets in 4 games leading in.
Let us not forget that he gets the best quarterback in football back this week in Drew Lock.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I never, I actually touted him as someone to sell a couple of weeks ago because he's just one of those players who clearly is not going to realize these air yards and these attempts and et cetera, just because of the way that they're playing in general. I don't have that much confidence in it, I should say. So if there's people that are selling it as him like, oh, he's definitely going to regress, there's no doubt about it, I can't really get behind that because you need someone to, it's the same thing with Denzel Mims, right? I love Mims this week. I think this is the week that he could go nuts, but we also have to be realistic that regression, with air yards and with all these peripherals, regression usually needs to come with like at least moderate quarterback play.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm going to take this one from Bethany. Listening to the Heat Check a lot, and we talk about making decisions based on potential regret. Can you speak about that a bit? And I think that I can expand upon this here. And Bethany, that's an analog for ceiling. Like we talk about that with Derrick Henry a lot. And the reason we talk about that is because he has a monstrous ceiling. And basically what we're asking when we say that is, what are the odds Derrick Henry hits his ceiling? That's what we're saying when I say literally like, what are the odds this guy burns me? Like that's the way that I view about that. Whereas with someone like James White, the odds that I regret not using him are minimal because the ceiling is not that high. So when I talk about regret, can this person burn me? I am talking about it. It's basically an analog for do they have a good ceiling and what are the odds they access that ceiling? That's basically what that means. Hopefully that's a bit clearer. But like that's basically what we're talking about. That matters a lot for DFS too. Cause like I've never feared fading Damian Harris once in my life because I don't think his ceiling is 20 points. Like right. I don't care. Like it doesn't affect me at all. So I think that's the way to view things there. Let's get to one from Facebook here. This one is from Melissa. I'll go this one to JJ. Would Mostert be a good pick against the Bills? So this one's on Monday night. Raheem Mostert came back last week, but the workload underwhelming for sure. Do you feel better about Mostert this week now that he's an additional week removed, or still a bit shaky?
I mean, look, I would assume, guys coming off injury, like someone like Mostert, who has not stayed healthy all year, is not going to see his full workload the first game back. But with that being said, we know that the San Francisco backfield typically splits their backfield up in some way. But I would expect Mostert to get a little bit more work this week than he did last week, just because he's not coming off that injury. I think he's, in that like mid RB2 range probably this week in season long. Yeah,
I think that makes sense for sure. And like it's a good team too, which definitely helps. Should be a tight game. Excited to watch that one. DJ, I'll take this one. Pick 2 for half PPR. CeeDee Lamb, Darnell Mooney, Allen Lazard. Darnell Mooney, speaking of prayer yards and not converting, Darnell Mooney gets like 15 deep shots, or we call them Mooney balls, every week. And I don't think he's caught any of them basically. So I'll go Lamb and Lazard there just because I can better expect them to actually catch the targets that they get. Scott, what do we do with Dobbins? Still listed as COVID on Yahoo, but they're playing on Tuesday, so there's a risk there. Really need him to flex, or I'm going Lamb or Cutie. So, JJ, we don't know what the status will be with J.K. Dobbins. It seems like J.K. Dobbins will play. I feel like we can say that given the reporting that there was on Dobbins leading into Wednesday's game. Would you be okay keeping that space with J.K. Dobbins, or would you burn it on CeeDee Lamb or Kiki Cutie?
Yeah, I mean, look, the way that I would see it is you could just not play Cutie and then see if Dobbins plays and then just throw in Lamb if Dobbins doesn't play, right?
Well, that's true. They're in the same game. Yeah. I didn't think about that.
I would probably just go that. The thing is, whenever we get these questions, we're so focused on the main slate that we forget about like the other slates that are going on.
Like, is Baltimore playing this week?
I was thinking through my head. I was like, I really, really hope they are playing Dallas this week because I think they are.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what I would do. I would play Dobbins over Lamb if Dobbins goes and you hear a little bit more. But if not, if there are some concerns, just throw Lamb because I don't think there's that big of a difference between Lamb and QT, even though QT's probably the play that I would, if straight up I would play him, but it's not significant enough to throw away Dobbins.
All right, final one here. This is a comment from One-Eyed Jack. He says, Kamara comeback season begins this week. Let's freaking go, family. One-Eyed Jack, he can come back on your rosters, not mine, not yet. I'm going to pass. Enjoy. If it goes well, though, kudos to you. I will miss out. That is all the time that we have for today, but do not forget, JJ is back with you at noon Eastern on Sunday to answer all of your start-sit questions. So make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Periscope channels. Get those questions in early. Make sure you tune in at noon Eastern to get all that from JJ. Big thank you to JJ and Brandon for joining me on the Snake Draft here for today. Thank you, as always, to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And, of course, thank you to everyone for tuning in, and thank you for all the very good questions, as always. We appreciate it. Good luck to you in Week 13. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the FanDuel Snake Draft Q&A.